I want to make it clear that everything you've heard and read is true. But Gavin Newsom was also once married to former Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle. After nearly 2 decades of silence, Gavin Newsom has finally revealed the truth behind his explosive divorce from Kimberly Guilfoyle. But what exactly went wrong on the surface? They had it all: charisma, power, and fame. An irresistible pairing of a progressive rising star and a fierce conservative media personality. Yet beneath the glamorous image lay a tangled web of secrets, clashing ideologies, and shocking scandals. Was their love doomed from the start? Or did one moment of betrayal seal their fate forever? Stay tuned. You won't believe what really pushed them to the breaking point. A look back at the controversial romance. Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle first crossed paths in San Francisco in the late 1990s, sparking an instant attraction that surprised many who knew them both. Gavin, a charismatic and progressive young politician with ambitious goals for public service, seemed an unlikely partner for Kimberly. A fiery, outspoken lawyer who openly leaned toward conservative ideals. Yet their chemistry was undeniable. And despite clear ideological differences, their relationship flourished quickly, drawing intrigue and curiosity from their social circles, and the broader public friends and observers alike were initially baffled by their union, largely due to the distinct contrast in their personalities. Gavin was known for his polished public persona and forward-thinking policies on issues like marriage, equality, and environmental sustainability, whereas Kimberly frequently articulated more conservative perspectives, becoming increasingly vocal in her viewpoints over time. However, what seemed like an incompatible match to outsiders was viewed by the couple as complementary, with each attracted to the other's intelligence, ambition, and outspoken character. From that moment on, this public couple became an attraction of media attention as one of the most visible power couples in California. The spirited Kimberly made the polished presence of Gavin shine all the more, while both happily cruised around the high-end social scene of the city political events, charity balls, and extravagant social events that took them to stardom made the couple very visible in California's political and social spheres. They became an interesting, if controversial, romantic pairing. And with their distinct glam lifestyles, they also grabbed headlines. Yet behind that glamorous facade and applause tension and doubts about the couple's compatibility were beginning to brew as they were cemented into public life. Their ideological divergences started to step up and question the future of their relationship. What was initially heralded as an interesting case of opposites attracting became a union that was far more contentious and troubled than either Gavin or Kimberly had anticipated. But could a fairy tale wedding really mask the storm? Brewing beneath the surface, the high-profile wedding. Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle exchanged vows in December 2001 in a lavish and glamorous wedding ceremony that immediately became the talk of California's elite social scene. The extravagant event held at San Francisco's historic St. Ignatius Church attracted hundreds of high-profile guests, including politicians, celebrities, and media figures. The scale and spectacle of the celebration underscored the couple's rising prominence, marking their official status as San Francisco's premier power duo. Despite the elegance and joy that seemed to permeate the celebration, insiders later revealed that tension simmered beneath the ceremony's flawless surface. Friends and family close to the couple began to notice subtle signs of unease, from forced smiles to occasional awkward exchanges, while the public admired their seemingly perfect partnership behind closed doors. Gavin and Kimberly reportedly faced growing disagreements over their future ambitions, political philosophies, and personal priorities issues that had remained unresolved even on their wedding day. On one hand, Kimberly's conservative family mingled awkwardly among Gavin's progressive political allies during the wedding festivities, thereby highlighting the considerable ideological gulf between the two worlds of the couple witnesses, recalled polite but awkward interactions between guests whose values and beliefs were overtly at odds, providing enough ambiance for cordiality, again drowned in the struggle with the aid of hindsight. It dawned upon them that all those little details of the wedding seemed to have been subtly dropping hints of the deeper rifts that would ultimately break apart their union. Thus, the opulence and public pageantry of their marriage could never suppress their fundamental differences that were mere slow poison to their union. The lavish ceremony meant to be a symbol of their togetherness. Instead, served to announce challenges they would soon be facing, instead of sealing their union. The massive spectacle was the first measure on a scale of disruptive tensions that neither Gavin nor Kimberly foresaw. Kimberly Guilfoyle's departure from Fox. Kimberly Guilfoyle's departure from Fox News in July 2018 has long been shrouded in secrecy and controversy, with her transition to a prominent role within Donald Trump's re-election campaign widely portrayed as voluntary. However, behind the scenes, a troubling narrative emerged involving serious allegations of misconduct and indecent assault. Guilfoyle, then co-host of the popular Fox show, the 5 faced accusations detailed in a confidential 42-page draft complaint submitted to Fox executives by her former assistant. The complaint accused Guilfoyle of frequent indecent assault and described efforts by Guilfoyle to silence the assistant through monetary inducements, escalating the scandal to multi-million-dollar proportions. The former assistant, hired fresh from college in 2015, alleged deeply inappropriate workplace behavior by Guilfoyle. The accusations included claims that Guilfoyle routinely subjected her to degrading situations, such as frequently requiring her to work in Guilfoyle's apartment while the Fox host appeared naked or nearly nude. The complaint further detailed that Guilfoyle regularly showed the assistant explicit photographs of male genitalia, spoke graphically and incessantly about her sex life, and once demanded a massage of her bare thighs. On multiple occasions, Guilfoyle allegedly pressured her assistant into inappropriate scenarios, including urging her to accommodate explicit advances from other Fox employees, encouraging explicit relations with wealthy men, and making her critique Guilfoyle's nude body. One eyewitness corroborated the disturbing nature of Guilfoyle's conduct, describing it as provocative in a way that made you want to get away from this person. There were also troubling issues about the alleged effort of Guilfoyle to silence her during the Fox investigation into workplace harassment. Guilfoyle is said to have offered financial inducements for the assistant's silence that allegedly included amounts as large as $1 million, as well as promises of future magic, show speaking fees and gifts, such as private plane rides and on-air reporting opportunities. The assistant felt threatened by Guilfoyle, especially when she refused these offers. Guilfoyle allegedly warned that private details about her would end up in the public, feeding the assistant's fears of retaliation, a well-placed source. Confirmed moving on that Guilfoyle had indeed raised the intention of hush money. Guilfoyle flatly denied the allegations in my 30-year career, working for the SF District Attorney's Office, the LA District Attorney's Office in media and in politics. I have never committed any sort of workplace misconduct, she stated in an official response. Friends and allies such as former colleague Greta Van Susteren and public relations executive Alexandra Preit defended Guilfoyle vigorously, calling the claims manifestly false and completely inconsistent with Guilfoyle's character. Nevertheless, a number of Fox insiders confirmed parts of the assistant's account the most notable being Guilfoyle's behavior of showing pornographic material in the workplace, which was considered by one former colleague to be worse than gross, contributing to an atmosphere that was quite toxic for young women. Fox News finally paid the ex-aide upwards of $4 million to settle thereby, forcing Guilfoyle out of her job, despite her best efforts to stay with the network. Rupert Murdoch, who was generally forgiving toward Alice Talent, was persuaded by his sons, Lachlan and James, that this time tolerating such conduct was nowhere near acceptable. The complaint by the assistant, hence, was seminal in Fox's final fallout, bringing a grave blow to Giles' media career. In contrast, in light of these allegations, Guilfoyle quickly transitioned to a major political role, becoming one of Trump's top campaign officials and surrogates her appearances at campaign events, particularly a fiery address at the Republican National Convention, called into serious question the campaign's handling of women's issues and allegations of workplace misconduct. Yet Guilfoyle's growing influence within Trump's inner circle shows just how much the specter of her controversial past continues to cast a shadow over her burgeoning political career. Early signs of trouble, as Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle's public profiles grew. Early cracks in their relationship began to appear, fueled by frequent disagreements over their political beliefs and conflicting career paths. Despite efforts to maintain a united front, observers noted subtle, yet increasingly visible tensions during public appearances, with the couple occasionally exchanging uneasy glances or abruptly shifting conversations away from sensitive topics. These awkward moments began to hint at deeper conflicts rooted in their divergent political ideologies. The tension became especially pronounced after Gavin took office as mayor of San Francisco in 2004. Just as Kimberly's career was simultaneously rising on national television as Gavin championed controversial liberal policies. Most notably, his historic decision to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Kimberly's position as a conservative media figure placed her in direct opposition, both publicly and privately, to many of her husband's key initiatives. This ideological clash created an uncomfortable dynamic where Kimberly sometimes struggled to reconcile her professional persona with her role as the mayor's wife. Work-related ambition introduced new strains. If that were not enough, Kimberly was spending more time in New York City because of her demanding Fox News schedule, while Gavin remained entrenched in California politics, making his case in San Francisco. The physical and emotional distance only intensified their ideological disagreements. Where once private arguments had now spilled into the public eye, friends began to see that each spouse was beginning to place more and more of his or her own ambitions over the marriage, making it all the harder for them to bridge that gap. Yet these early quarrels would become a flashpoint, identifying impending crisis. What had initially linked Gavin and Kimberly, witnessing ambition and being outspoken, were now sources of discord. Their lack of open support for each other's choices reflected a growing understanding that perhaps their fundamental differences had become too much for resolution. This planted treacherous seeds of doubt that would later contribute to even greater fissures in their relationship. The prenup drama, long before their lavish wedding, became the talk of California's elite. Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle found themselves embroiled in intense discussions surrounding their prenup agreement, a conflict that would foreshadow deeper issues in their marriage. As an experienced attorney, Kimberly was keenly aware of the potential pitfalls of high-profile unions, and friends recall that she was initially taken aback by the stringent conditions Gavin proposed. The legal negotiations, though typical among prominent public figures, quickly revealed insecurities and mistrust that neither party fully confronted at the time. according to those close to the situation. Gavin's insistence on a meticulously detailed prenup stemmed from dual concerns: safeguarding his family's considerable wealth and shielding his burgeoning political career from potential scandal or disputes. His family had deep financial roots and political aspirations, making Gavin particularly cautious sources. Familiar with these negotiations described Gavin as both protective and pragmatic, driven by a desire to insulate his personal ambitions and family legacy from any unforeseen fallout. Kimberly, on the other hand, reacted with an emotional upheaval in her consciousness over the bargaining Gavin had called for. Although she was a trained professional and knew all about the protection offered by contract law, the decidedly prosaic contract's prenuptial, her feeling shrunk her spirits. Close friends have disclosed the view of Kimberly, who considered stressing financial protections as unfriendly and unromantic, contrary to her dreams of love and emotional support of marriage. She felt that Gavin was somehow suggesting a lack of faith in the true spirit of their partnership, thereby planting seeds of resentment long before their wedding went on. That underground war easily escalated, the lawyers getting involved, turning what could have been just another legal formality into emotionally charged moments. Friends watching the couple during that time said that Kimberly's normally confident demeanor was compromised by the issue, and that she frequently expressed doubts over Gavin's motives to her inner circle. Gavin, on the other hand, privately expressed his feelings of frustration over Kimberly's perceived unwillingness to appreciate fully the practical responsibilities of being married into a politically and financially prominent family in the end. Although Gavin and Kimberly reached an understanding, their relations were forever cast in a dark shadow by the interminable and difficult negotiations, more than just any other legal hurdle. The prenup came to embody the nastier, emotional divides that had erupted from this, and sooner or later resurfaced in more manifest ways to both parties. It spoke of pragmatism and caution over emotional closeness and trust setting, the tone for a guarded dynamic that would dominate their marriage. That tainted feeling, engendered by their initial clash over the prenup, would silently guide the course of their relationship, laying the groundwork for many more future disputes and misunderstandings, few of which either would fully anticipate financial tensions or just the beginning. Fame and ambition were about to spark an even bigger storm. Kimberly's rising stardom and Gavin's political pressure. As Kimberly Guilfoyle's career at Fox News soared, she quickly transformed from a local figure to a national media personality. Her growing visibility came with demands for frequent appearances in New York City, lengthy travel commitments, and intensive schedules. While Kimberly thrived in the spotlight, her husband Gavin Newsom was simultaneously grappling with the intense pressures of serving as mayor of San Francisco, a city constantly scrutinized by national media for its progressive policies and controversial initiative. The demanding schedules of both careers created a constant state of separation that left little room for intimacy or connection. Gavin faced relentless pressure to uphold his progressive image and to deliver on ambitious campaign promises, leaving him increasingly consumed by his political duties and public responsibilities. This heavy workload meant that he had limited emotional bandwidth to support Kimberly's own professional aspirations, which were expanding rapidly beyond California's borders. Kimberly, meanwhile, began experiencing tensions between her identity as a conservative commentator and her role as the spouse of a leading liberal politician. Dynamic, she later admitted, was both personally and professionally exhausting, according to sources close to the couple. The more Kimberly's media career expanded, the more isolated she became from Gavin. She told confidants that While Gavin received praise and support from his havens of progressive politics, she found fierce criticism from those very people in politics that consider her association with Fox News as tainted negativity. This alienation grows stronger when at all costs she tries to succeed without Gavin's drag. In the end, Kimberly's rising stardom, increasingly constrained by Gavin's political commitments, might be some of the biggest factors, stoking the further emotional distance that would ultimately put a lot more strain on their marriage. The things that they both used to applaud each other. All their professional successes were soon absorbed into competing interests and left both of them at a complete loss as to how to cross the emotional gap. All the pressure built up, and they found it impossible to go on harmoniously as miles increased in separating their lives, which marked another vital juncture at which it became apparent that they were heading in entirely different directions. Rumors of infidelity and public scandals. As Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle's marriage faced growing pressures, troubling rumors began to surface, further straining an already tense relationship. Speculation surrounding possible infidelity and personal misconduct became increasingly persistent, with tabloids frequently alleging extramarital affairs on both sides. Though initially neither Gavin nor Kimberly publicly addressed these allegations, the rumors themselves took a considerable emotional toll, fostering distrust and causing embarrassment. Their increasingly fragile union in January 2007. One of the most damaging rumors was shockingly confirmed when Newsom publicly admitted to having an affair with Ruby Rippy Turk, the wife of his close friend and campaign manager, Alex Turk. The affair occurred in 2005. During a particularly turbulent period when Gavin and Kimberly were already in the midst of divorce proceedings, Newsom's revelations sent shockwaves throughout California politics and significantly tarnished his previously polished public image, bringing intense scrutiny and criticism to his administration. The scandal escalated further when Alex Turk abruptly resigned from Newsom's campaign siding. Personal reasons the following day, a visibly remorseful Newsom addressed the media in a widely covered press conference, stating bluntly, "I want to make it clear that everything you've heard and read is true, and I'm deeply sorry about that. I've hurt someone. I care deeply about Alex Turk and his friends and family, and that is something I have to live with." This candid acknowledgement stunned observers and intensified the scrutiny surrounding his and Kimberly's deteriorating marriage. The whole drama of their separation did not end there. Kimberly was again thrust against her will into the limelight to publicly wrestle the compounds of mortification and emotional distress that her husband's betrayal had left her, with close insiders claim that Guilfoyle was feeling humiliated, annoyed, and isolated, feeling thus. She withdrew even further from all the remaining emotional attachments. With Gavin and Kimberly was beset with another titanic wave of false rumors about her link with some powerful media personalities, which she vehemently denied. It is important to note, however, that it was a source of pain for her that her husband never publicly lent his support to those purportedly false rumors. Thus her increasing emotional distance with him, finally all these allegations and scandals, some of them true. Others, a bit exaggerated, wore away at what little trust there remained in the relationship between Gavin and Kimberly. Their marriage was almost by now fettered in ideological difference, career demands, and financial pressure, and so it could not carry the extra weight of a public scandal. In the end, these controversies only added fuel to the fire of existing insecurities and pushed the couple closer to an emotional breakpoint of no return. Emotional strain behind closed doors. In the aftermath of their separation, Kimberly Guilfoyle began to share glimpses into the emotional struggles she faced behind closed doors during her marriage to Gavin Newsom. Privately, Kimberly described feeling increasingly isolated, emotionally unsupported, and disconnected. Despite the public perception of their union as a glamorous political partnership, close friends revealed that Kimberly often felt overshadowed by Gavin's political ambitions. Experiencing loneliness and frustration, when her personal needs took a back seat to his demanding career, Kimberly confided that the constant need to reconcile her conservative beliefs with Gavin's progressive politics took a significant emotional toll. She reportedly struggled to balance her genuine desire to support her husband's political success with her need to remain true to her own convictions and values. Kimberly later admitted that this internal conflict frequently left her feeling emotionally drained, with the tension of maintaining appearances becoming almost unbearable as their relationship deteriorated. Her emotional turmoil was further amplified by Kimberly's struggle with public perception, especially under the harsh criticism meted out to her by Gavin's political associates. Friends recalled Kimberly expressing an allusion to Gavin in private instances for never coming forward to defend her against the scrutiny and criticism directed at her for her Fox News and conservative politics. In retrospect, Kimberly later said that the lack of support had diminished her trust in their partnership, making her feel undervalued and unacknowledged. Years later, Kimberly recounted the events of their marriage and said she had reached her breaking point long before divorce proceedings had begun. The general perception was that the marriage had been a subject of political power, while in reality, Kimberly felt all the emotional neglect and lack of support, which only tortured her all the more. She felt that behind the scenes, the marriage was much more contractual than real love. Her accounts went on to prove just how much emotional neglect, on top of ideological differences and public scrutiny, had come in the way of keeping their marriage afloat. The final breaking point, years after his highly publicized split from Kimberly Guilfoyle, Gavin Newsom finally opened up about the exact moment. He realized their marriage was irreparably broken. According to Gavin, it wasn't merely one single event, but rather a culmination of numerous pressures, political divisions, career ambitions, public scrutiny, and deeply personal disappointments that steadily eroded the foundation of their relationship. Yet he admitted there was indeed a defining, profoundly painful moment of clarity when he truly grasped that their marriage had reached the point of no return. For Gavin, this moment came in the wake of his devastating and publicly humiliating admission of infidelity with Ruby Rippey Turk, the wife of his close friend and trusted campaign manager Alex Turk. As the scandal erupted across the headlines, Gavin privately wrestled with overwhelming guilt, shame, and regret. But even as he publicly took responsibility, acknowledging everything you've heard and read is true, and I'm deeply sorry about that. He recognized that his actions had inflicted irreparable emotional damage, not just to those directly involved, but critically to his already fragile relationship with Kimberly. Speaking candidly, in retrospect, Gavin described this period as one of the most isolating and soul-searching times of his life. He recalled vividly how, despite their attempts to maintain public composure behind closed doors, the silence between them became deafening, marked by painful, unspoken resentment. It was in this suffocating silence that Gavin finally understood just how deeply Kimberly had withdrawn emotionally, describing it as heartbreaking and sobering a realization that left him confronting the harsh reality of their emotional divide. In addition, Gavin revealed how extremely his own relentless ambition and obsession with political success have been so blinding that it has kept him from seeing Kimberly's emotional needs. Reflecting on the past, he was frank enough to say, "I put my political career above everything else, including my marriage. And I've never been able to reconcile that this disquieting admission was made powerfully against the backdrop of the savage public divorce of their individual lives, rendering the assertion even clearer. Further intensifying the emotional drama, Gavin said that in secret conversations, Kimberly would paint for him an unrestrained expression of abandonment and deception, not just because of the infidelity, but because Gavin emotionally excluded her and did not offer any support. When his public scrutiny stormed into personal crisis. According to Gavin himself, this was that moment when he understood that the passion in their relationship had turned into merely an empty shell, perfected by its beauty, and not the emotion inside the ultimate defining moment. According to Gavin, came out as the agonizing collision of his public disgrace. Kimberly's emotional isolation, and the massive weight of awareness for the two of them that they were fundamentally incompatible. At first, Gavin didn't want to share such personal insights, but eventually he opted to go public with it, saying sometimes the harshest truths are just what we need to hear. And it was important for me to be honest, not just for myself, but for everyone who had been part of our journey. What Gavin was trying to do is find reconciliation for himself as well as for the rest of the world, who might have found interest in his intimate details with their marriage. Over both Gavin and Kimberly stepped boldly into new lives, but neither could predict the dramatic twists ahead. Life after divorce, nearly 2 decades after their highly publicized divorce. Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle have both forged distinctly separate paths, each achieving considerable success while often remaining at the center of public scrutiny. Gavin, who continued to pursue his political ambitions with relentless determination, ascended to become governor of California. In 2019, his progressive policies and assertive leadership have kept him prominently in the national spotlight, occasionally fueling speculation of presidential aspirations. Kimberly, meanwhile, reinvented herself as a prominent conservative media figure and political personality. Her high-profile engagement in 2020 to Donald Trump Jr., the son of former President Donald Trump, marked a significant and controversial new chapter in her life. Kimberly became deeply embedded in national Republican politics, frequently appearing at campaign rallies, conservative conferences, and even delivering a fiery speech at the 2020 Republican National Convention, firmly cementing her position within the Trump family's inner political circle. The contrasting trajectories of their lives. LED to some inevitable, awkward moments in 2018. When Newsom was running for governor of California, a reporter from KQED's California Report asked him how he felt about Guilfoyle dating Donald Trump Jr., given that Trump Jr.'s father was considered California progressives' biggest political adversary. Gavin acknowledged the sensitivity, jokingly responding, "What do you think my response is going to be?" He further admitted it was an awkward question, stating it was the first time anyone officially raised the issue, despite Guilfoyle's relationship with Trump, Jr. being the talk of California's political circles. Interestingly, Guilfoyle herself has indicated openness about maintaining a friendly connection with Newsom, despite firmly disagreeing with her ex-husband's very liberal policies on gun control and his aggressive stance against the Trump administration's immigration policies. Guilfoyle told The Washington Post that she and Newsom still enjoy regular phone conversations. In fact, during one call, Guilfoyle humorously teased Newsom about sending Trump Jr. to campaign against him in California, even putting Trump Jr. on the phone and suggesting the two men discuss hair products, playfully referencing their famously slick-back hairstyles. Gab's hair is slick back, and Don's hair is slick back. Guilfoyle joked, while the hair color commentary made for some good entertaining talk, found no mention in Newsom's interview on KQED. He candidly talked about still trying to come to grips with all of it. Presumably with Guilfoyle's relationship with Trump Jr. Still on the whole, he kept a diplomatic tone about it in that conversation, signing off with a chuckle. No, it's fine. I wish her well, and them well, and we see the world clearly with a different set of eyes. Politically, Newsom went on to stress the importance of marrying political differences and practical governance. At the end of the day, the responsibility of governing and being the governor of the state of California, when it comes to disaster declarations, when it comes to getting reimbursement for the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that we're putting out on these. You've got to have at least some semblance of a relationship. He explained that he would not go out of his way to have collisions with the Trump administration. Yet when push came to shove, he would push back aggressively with greatest confidence. In KQED, he stated, "If Donald Trump wants to attack the people of this state, they will have no greater champion than myself, in spite of their completely disparate life trajectories." Both Gavin and Kimberly have publicly remained respectful when talking about their relationship. Gavin seldom discusses Kimberly, publicly focusing instead on governance and political agenda. Kimberly acknowledges the relationship from time to time, but emphasizes how personally and politically she has changed her thoughts for the good of the conservative cause and the very liberal political backdrop she once shared. Today, Gavin and Kimberly live vastly separate lives. A story once bound together is now a distant memory, eclipsed by their respective successes and scandals. While Kimberly's staunch support of conservative politics stands in sharp contrast to Gavin's progressive agenda, the inherent divergence only serves to highlight how mutually exclusive their values were. Their lives after divorce are striking examples of how two people once standing together drifted apart personally and politically, both coming to enjoy two entirely alien worlds, if you enjoyed uncovering the dramatic twists behind Gavin Newsom and Kimberly Guilfoyle's controversial relationship. Make sure to hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more fascinating stories. And don't go anywhere. Click the video on your screen right now to dive into another intriguing tale you won't want to miss.